Emer says, before I adjusted my timeline for day 8, it was directly from left to right. Then you guided us to have it from front to back, and then you asked us to put it in the direction that we wish to have it. Mine was at an angle diagonally from left to right around 45 degrees. You also mentioned in an answer before that the timeline is like a spinal cord, or spiral cord, actually. I misread that. And he's asking, kind of more details on that. So yeah, your timeline, the reason I had you work with this is that we're used to working with things in space, right? So we're used to moving around in time and space, or moving around in space rather, because we have bodies. And so when we visualize a timeline, all we're doing is we're giving a spatial representation to time. And naturally, we tend to have a way that feels right to us energetically, and we have a cultural preference or bias, oftentimes based on which way we read. So in Japan, time is generally considered to go from right to left, because that's how the reading goes. In English-speaking countries, typically people think of it as left to right, because that's how the reading goes. And you may have other programs too. Now, but time actually does have a physical representation naturally as well, and that has to do with your actual physical location in the galaxy, right? And so what you would do to find that is that, okay, we're moving around the sun, you're on the planet Earth, it's spinning, and then that's moving around the sun once a year, and then the sun is actually moving quite fast through space on another kind of a spiral from the center of our galaxy out toward the outer edge of the galaxy. So if you looked at all these complex motions and put them together, that would be your natural timeline, which is the time, the little trace in actual space that your body has moved through during time. So, but that's pretty complicated, but you can go back and walk that physical timeline and get a really powerful experience, a great way to travel back into your past that way. Paulina says, on day 6 and 7, when I travel to my past, most of the time it's dull and gray. I feel resistance and memories call forward emotions that my mind wants to cope with. When I travel to the future, I feel utter bliss and empowerment. It feels really good. And I'd like to, any tips on shifting that perception of the past? I'd like to experience it brighter in a happier way. Sure, what I would say is just take that same emotion or feeling that you have when you go into the future, that brightness and that good feeling, and just imagine that you're kind of carrying it with you. Go to the future first, pick it up, carry it with you down the timeline, and carry it into that past. And hold that energy, that vibration with you. You can imagine it's a little package, any visualization will work. And just as you take it with you, just hold it and kind of radiate that light, that vibration, that sensation of lightness out into the past. And it seems really simple, but you're going to be surprised that energy work is simple. It doesn't take a lot of complexity. It doesn't take a lot of modality or particular steps. Just whatever you can think of on how would I bring more light into this space? How would I change it? Energy, that will work. Energy work is primarily your intention, and the technique itself isn't really the key thing. The key thing is having your certainty and having your intention, and then just doing what seems natural to do. Why do you so often start with the awareness in the center of your head? And the reason that I do that is that we need a point of reference that's familiar to us, and typically we imagine or we believe that we exist in our head somewhere, that our brain is our consciousness. So it's just kind of a convenient thing. It also does happen to be where your pineal gland is, and and some important parts of your physical body that you can resonate there in the center of your head too. So there's kind of two reasons. It's, if you want to, Corinne was also asking, could she go into her heart or into her belly or somewhere else too, with her awareness and be centered there? And that's totally fine too. Center of the head isn't like a magic place that you have to work from. It's just one that people get very good results from. If you're in the center of your head, it's behind your eyes, which you're used to looking out from. It's between your ears that you're used to listening from. It's just a natural point of reference for us. But of course, if you want to use a different one, that's okay too. Kathy is asking about feeling different. She's had a few days off work when the course started. Now it's day 5, she's back at work. She says, I work on campus and noticed walking through the hallway with crowds of people, feeling very, very different, almost spacey, and I'm wondering what is going on. So what's happening there is just your awareness is different. Even though the exercises we've been doing are, seem very simple, it's causing you to be more present in your experience and absorbing information in a different way. And so it feels weird. It may even feel like everything's not quite real, like what's happening, why are all these people going where they're going? And what you're starting to notice there is that there's a level of unconsciousness that's pretty pervasive in our general experience. Most people are fairly unconscious all the time. And when you start to pop out of that and be conscious, it is kind of weird. Like you feel different because it's not the experience you're used to. And you start to notice like, what is going on here? This is kind of weird. People are just doing stuff, but there isn't really much point to a lot of the stuff that they're doing. So kind of fun. Yeah, just enjoy the awareness. It'll continue to change throughout the program. Kaleidos says, what is the concept behind this changing our future with our awareness? Can we really do so just through this technique? Yes, this technique is really powerful for that. So basically what we're doing is, your future is determined by the momentum that's pushing you and the direction that you're pushing, the direction that you're pointing rather. And so if you energetically are able to look into your past, notice where the momentum is pushing you forward, you'll notice that, oh, now I get it. Now I know why I've been going in that direction. I know why I've been seeing those patterns in my life, because I have this momentum behind me. Already you're probably starting to change it because you have that realization that it's not inevitable. It's just momentum and you can change it. Then you start to poke around in your past and say, well, what other momentum do I have? Is there a momentum that I have in my past, something that happened that would lead me in a different direction that I'd prefer to go? And I can't remember who said it, but I love the term. Somebody said that, it felt like their past had their back when they did that. And when you look around at your past and find where's the thing that's pushing me in the direction I want to go, and then just imagine you're turning in that direction, it'll have a really powerful effect. Now, what you'll notice is maybe the next day things aren't instantly different, but over time, because you're pointing in a different direction, you're getting further and further and further down that new path for you. So really fun to play. Romy wants to know how I tune into the group energy when there's 1,000 of us, saying that it's a lot of energy and it's hard to imagine, and how's this done? So yeah, it's actually not that difficult. It just takes practice. I started doing group energy work many years ago, and I noticed when I'm teaching that it was just easy to listen to everybody in the room with my awareness. It's much easier than trying to look around or gauge people's faces and so on. Especially because when people are meditating, they kind of look like zombies. So you have to tune into their energy, otherwise it looks like everybody's bored out of their mind in a meditation group. And so this is kind of fun. So I learned how to do this just by practice. And no, it's not overwhelming. It's very easy to tune into, in the room you could tune into a group of people, but it's actually no different to tune into people that are far away. I started working about 10 years ago, working with people remotely, so over the phone or over Skype, and looking at their energy and giving them feedback. And so it's really it's hard to describe how I do it exactly. Basically, I'm just tuning in and sort of becoming them briefly, expanding my energy in a way that will touch them, and I can feel and see what's happening with everybody. With a group this big, I tend to do it in trends. What are the big trends? So in general, what are people feeling, rather than 1,000 little individual voices? Because you'd be surprised, mostly you guys are going along the same track. There'll only be a small handful of trends that are happening each day. So kind of fun. Good question. Rick says, would this meditation be an effective strategy in revisiting events in our past to either write them or transform them in ways that leave us feeling empowered, or at least not disempowered? And yes, definitely, you can use this technique of going through and working on your timeline to, you can go into the past, you can find things that you may not have remembered about your past, a little more detail, and you can also do some time healing there, where you're sort of, actually I described that in day 9 in the applications. I tell you how to go into a place before some trauma happened, and then someplace in the future, and then kind of stitch those back together. So you can edit your timeline. Now, depending on how much certainty you have in your own abilities and how much practice you have, you'll have different results. So if somebody that has a high level of certainty will be able to make changes in their timeline and feel real tangible results. Now, if you're making changes and you're feeling like, maybe a little happened or not so much happened. Well, you just need to work on your certainty a little bit, and practice is the way to do that. By the end of the program, you'll notice that even the things, if you haven't practiced it directly, again in the program, by the end of 60 days, your certainty on working with your awareness is going to be way up because you've been practicing in many different ways. And you can go back and try these exercises again and realize that, wow, now I can get really, really powerful results. Mikey says, I have a question about the strange and odd feeling that somebody is walking up and down my timeline with me at the right side of my body. This frightens me. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Okay, I'm going to give you a real simple answer for now, and that is that during these exercises, you're intended to really be sort of alone in your experience. If you're tuned in, you might notice that there's a group experience that we're all going through and be able to feel that group experience. That's really fun. But if you feel something that's kind of outside that experience, like you're describing, like there's somebody kind of like stalking you along your timeline, if you feel that, you want to just claim that space for yourself. You can say hello to whatever that feeling or that sensation that somebody's there. You say hello to them and just kind of say, oh, thanks for stalking me along the timeline, and I'm going to say goodbye and ask you to leave. And just claim that space for yourself. That's sufficient for now. You don't really need to know who it is or what it is or go really deep. Just say, okay, I want to be on this experience by myself, and most of the time that's going to clear it for you. Adam says, hi, Jeffrey. I was wondering if you might explain a bit about which level or aspect of our individual selves our consciousness center resides in. He's talking about the consciousness, meaning that what we're playing with right now in this class. And he also referred to Ken Wilber's 3 states of the physical body, the energy body, and then the higher self and beyond. So I've listened to Ken Wilber's presentations and talks before, but I'm not an expert on his material, so I can't speak to that directly. But I would say that what we're doing here as we go through the 12 different sections in this program is stimulating your awareness or your consciousness in many different parts of your awareness, as many as I could think up, like where are the key places where awareness affects your spiritual growth. And I said that, there's 6 main places, and each of those have 2. And so we're actually gonna work through all of those that you mentioned. We're gonna look at, we're gonna work in the physical body, and we've done that a little bit already. We're gonna move into that more. Certainly we're working with the energy body, and we've been working with your higher self and that connection to the divine. We're already starting to tap into that a little bit. So we'll be moving through all of these levels as we go. And it's been my experience that anytime you're trying to categorize things into buckets when you're talking about awareness, it's going to be a little bit messy. It's convenient for descriptions and for teaching. It's great to make a mental model of how it works, but our mental models are typically based on objects and physical rules, and the spirit does not follow object rules and physical rules, so it doesn't really match exactly. So don't worry about that so much. I encourage you just enjoy the experience, try not to mentalize it too much, and just get the insights and experiences that you get. Irina says, for some reason these meditations are making me very uncomfortable. At best I fall asleep and all is blank. However, often fear comes up, and that's very unsettling. I don't know what to make out of it. I'm at the point where I'm wanting to quit, and some help or guidance would be appreciated. So yeah, I would say, Irina, first that you're not the only one that's going to feel that. Everybody's going to notice from time to time that it's uncomfortable, or things are not happening for you, or it feels a little bit blank. And what I would say is that it's quite normal when you're going through a change to feel uncomfortable. In fact, that's kind of my job as the guide for this program, is to guide you into the places that you wouldn't go naturally because they're a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm not doing that because I'm mean. I'm doing that because once you move in there where it's uncomfortable and bring a little bit of light and awareness there and attention and mastery in there, that those uncomfortable places start to become comfortable. And that's really good because then you can move your awareness there all the time. So I would encourage you, especially when it's feeling uncomfortable, that's when you really want to keep going, because if you stop now when you're uncomfortable, you're just going to stay there. The uncomfort, you'll kind of back off with your awareness and probably go unconscious again, but that uncomfortable energy will stay with you. You have the opportunity now to keep pushing through it, to keep going down the path, and it's pretty gentle. I'm not having you do anything super difficult. Even if you're falling asleep, you're still getting it on a subconscious level. So I'd encourage you to keep going until you get through it, and then you'll feel this kind of sense of, I'm back, I'm feeling better, I'm aware of myself, and that's the point when you have enough clarity to make a decision like, is this program for me or not? You want to wait until you get to the clarity. You don't want to stop at the place where you're still confused and unconscious and falling asleep. Good question.